Okay, this is test 9 of the McGraw-Hill 10 ACT practice tests, and this is going to be a timed run. 1 pound is equivalent to 16 ounces. All right, 1 pound, 16 ounces. If a book weighs 1.5 pounds, how many ounces does it weigh? Okay, so basically we need to cross multiply. X equals the product of those. So we'll grab a calculator. 16 times 1.5, which gives us 24. Which of the following expressions is equivalent to this? So we do a FOIL first, gives us 3x squared. Outer, minus 15x. Inner, plus 4x. Last is minus 20. So we get 3x squared minus 11x minus 20. Let a function of two variables be defined by ab minus a minus b. What is the value of function evaluated at 8, 9? So we put in 8 for a, 9 for b. 8 minus 9. So 8 minus 9 is negative 1. So we have 8 times 9, which is 72, minus negative 1, 73. What is 1/5 of 16% of 24,000? So grab the calculator. Whoops. We can do 24,000 times 0.16 and then divide that by 5. 768. Alright, so for this one we would subtract 3x from both sides. We get 2x plus 5 equals 25. And then subtract 5. 2x is 20. Divide by 2, x is 10. Okay, AB is 7. The perimeter is 46. So right away, I've got these two sides adding to 14. If I subtract that away, I get 32 to split between the other two sides. So they must be 16 apiece. This is 28, because negative 2's absolute value is 2. What is the measure of angle C? Alright, so let's see here. Okay, these lines are parallel, so that means that these angles are going to be equal. Alright, because they're corresponding. If you have parallel lines cut by a transversal, they're corresponding angles. So anyway, angle C is 40 and 80 is 120. 180 minus that, right? 60 is left over for this. X is negative 3, so we plug that in, and y is 2. Negative 3, 2. So negative 3 to the third is 27 with a negative. And 2 to the third is equal to 8. Okay. Now this makes negative 54, and this makes negative 24. So altogether we have negative 78. Two professors were hired to begin work at the same time. Professors A contract, starting salary of 50K. All right. With an increase of 1,500 per year. So that's plus 1,500 times X, where X is the number of years. And then B's contract starts at 42,000. We're probably going to end up setting these equal. 42,000 plus 2,800 times X. So we want to know which of the following could be solved to determine the number of years until B's salary equals A's salary. Well, we just set them equal, right? The only difference is they used Y for years, but it's F. If W equals X, Y, Z, how do you solve for Z? Well, you have to isolate by dividing XY. Divide by XY, and W over XY, okay? Two whole numbers have a greatest common factor of 8 and the least common multiple of 48. Which of the following pairs of numbers satisfies those conditions? Alright. Well, first of all, 8 has to be a factor of both. So 8 is not a factor of 9, nor is it a factor of 10. 8 is not a factor of 10. 8 is not a factor of 14. So it has to be this. A rope 55 feet long is cut into two pieces. So let's call the two pieces X and Y. One piece is 23 more than the other. what is the length of the shorter piece? So when you add them together, we get 55 feet for the length of the both ropes combined. Plug this in for x. 23 plus y is 55. 23 plus 2y is 55. Subtract 23, and 2y equals 32. Divide that, you get 16 for the piece which is shorter, and then the longer piece would be 23 plus that, which would be what, 39? Alright, so here we're going to have to FOIL the left side, so we get x squared plus r squared, and also a 2xr. That's going to equal x squared plus r squared and 22x. So this 22x has to equal this 2xr, right, because we could subtract away the rest. So 2xr equals 22x, divide by 2x, and we end up with r equals 11. Jenny ran 3 1/3 miles on Saturday, 2 4/5. What's the total amount of miles? Well, 3 and 2 is 5, so then we just have to add 1/3 and 4/5. We do a cross multiply method. We get 5 plus 12 over 15, 17 over 15, which is 1 and 2/15. Tack that onto 5 and we get 6 and 2/15. So I think that would be here because this is really 3/15, right? If a car leaves a parking lot and travels directly north for 6 miles, alright, so 6 miles north, then travels east for 8 miles, how many miles is the car from the original parking lot? So this is Pythagorean theorem, but you could also use a multiple of a 3, 4, 5, which in this case is timesing by 2, 6, 8, 10. Okay. In the standard xy coordinate plane, this intersects the x-axis how many times? Well, you could just t-chart and find all 4 roots. It's 4 times. Marcia's horse's rectangular corral is 50 by 125. 50 by 125. Marcia wants to increase the area by 1850 by increasing the length and width by the same amount. So we're going to add x to both dimensions. Okay. Then when we find an area, we're going to have to multiply those. Okay. And that's going to equal 1850 more than what we originally had. So we originally had this times this, but now we have to add 1850 to that. Okay, they want to know the new dimensions. So this is another key thing. We want the new dimensions here. Okay, so let's solve this out. So the quickest way to solve this thing, let's see, we could FOIL this. Right, so we get x squared plus 50x, and 125x makes 175x, and then 50 times 125, we could just use the calculator, 125 times 50, 6285. Alright, now we do 50 times 125, I could have done it a shorter way, but that's okay. Again, 6250 here, plus 1850. I don't know where I came up with that number. 50 times 125. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, these will cancel. This subtracts over. X squared plus 175x plus 1850 equals 0. So we can find multiples of that, or that's probably going to be tough, so let's just put it into the calculator and graph it. Little brute force here. So x squared plus 175x plus 1850. Graph. Let me zoom standard. And let me zoom 0 to find where it is. Alright. So we can see there's a root somewhere here on the left. Let me zoom out. Okay. So it looks like that root is negative. Yeah, it should be negative, shouldn't it? So let's find it. So we'll go second calculate 2. We'll go left bound of the root. Enter. Right bound. Enter. Enter. Alright, negative 11.3. Oh boy. Alright, this isn't working out. Let's see what's going on here. Alright. We'll go a new method here. Right. Let's just use the answer choices, right? So we'll find the original amount of the thing. We should have done this from the start, but okay. 50 times 125, okay, 6250, and we want to increase that by 1850. So plus 1850 equals 8100. So we need these things to multiply to 8100. So let's see which does. 55 by 130. Nope. 60 by 135. Yep. The lengths of the sides of a triangle are 3 consecutive even integers. So x, x plus 2, x plus 4. If the perimeter of the triangle is 48, that means these add up to 48. Okay. What's the longest side? So we can subtract 6. 3x is 42. Divide by 3. We get x equals, I believe, 14. 30, 42, yeah. So x is 14 is the smallest side. The longest side would be this one, right, which would be 14 and 4 is 18. In the standard xy coordinate plane, what is the slope of the equation with this line? All right, so 4y, so we bring the 6x over, and then divide by 4 every single spot. So y equals 3/2 x plus 2. So the slope is 3/2. In the right triangle shown below, which of the following statements is true about angle x? Alright, so we know that its tangent is going to be opposite over adjacent. So the tangent is going to be 12 over 5. Is that a choice? No. What's the sine going to be? The sine is going to be opposite over hypotenuse. The sine is going to be 12 over 13. Is that a choice? Yes. Alright. What is the length of QS? Okay. So QS. Right, so to find the distance, we can use my new Pythagorean theorem formula for distance. So we have to find delta x and delta y. So delta y went up 3. So that's delta y, and then delta x went up 5. So 3 squared is 9, 5 squared is 25, that makes 34. So the distance is rad 34. Which of the following are the coordinates of the image of R under a 90-degree counterclockwise rotation about the origin? So point R, 90 degrees counterclockwise rotation about the origin. So we'd probably be somewhere out here. Okay, so we're looking at 2 negative coordinates for sure. And so it's either one of these two. And, well, it's certainly more over than it is up. So we'll go with -5 for the x. Which of the following is close to the perimeter of the thing? Well, let's see. So this vertical distance is 6, right? This horizontal distance is 5. It's just a difference of the x coordinates. This vertical distance is 3. So already we're looking at 9 and 5 is 14. And then we have this distance here, which we use a distance formula. Change in x is 5. Change in y is 3. So we actually already calculated that to be rad 34, which is very close to 6. So we're very close to 20. 19.8. If 5 times a number x is subtracted from 15, the result is negative. So now we solve this. Subtract 15. Actually, yeah, we could subtract 15, right? Minus 5x is less than -15, then divide by -5. And when we do, we remember we have to flip the inequality sign. So x is greater than 3, choice B. Temperature T in degrees Fahrenheit in a certain city is given by this equation, which the following temperatures is not in this range. Alright, so the distance between my temperature and 34 has to be less than or equal to 40. So that goes all the way up to 77, right? And it goes all the way down to, I believe, -6. So the temperatures would be in that range. So what is not in that range is -8. What is the slope-intercept form of this? Well, you get y by itself moving it over there. Alright. And that looks like choice D. A chord of 32 centimeter. Okay. So this would be 16 and 16. And then, yeah, so we need Pythagorean theorem. This is not a perfect triple. So 6 squared plus 16 squared. Then we square root the answer. 17.1. What is the least common multiple of 3, 4a, 5b, and 6ab? So let's start with just the numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. Let's see. Well, any multiple of 6 is already going to be a multiple of 3. Alright. So this is 2 times 2, this is a 5, and this is a 2 times 3. So if we stack them, alright, we end up with this. So then we want to take the highest amount of 2's, highest amount of 3's. So this is like 2 to the second, alright? So highest amount of 2's is 2 copies, highest amount of 3's is 1 copy, highest amount of 5 is 1 copy. So this is 4 times 3 is 12 times 5 is 60. So we know the number part is 60. And then the letter part is just going to be AB. What is the y-coordinate of the point in the standard xy coordinate plane at which these two lines intersect? So we set the right sides equal. Subtract 4 from both sides, and then subtract 2x to the left, and we'll be left with x equals 2. And we want the x-coordinate? No, we want the y-coordinate. See, we have to be careful about partial answers. To get the y-coordinate, we sub back in. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 6 is 10. Alright, so this one could be factored into x plus 13, x minus 13. And then one of the x minus 13's cancels. Okay. So that gives us choice E. Alright, so for this one, I would subtract m from both sides. That would get me this. Then I would negate the entire equation, switching every single sign. That gets me this. Then I would plug this in for m minus n. So negative 2 to the 4th power would give me positive 16. The larger of two numbers, alright, let's call that y, exceeds twice the smaller. Okay. So if you're not sure what that means, let's see, 10 exceeds 3 by 7. So that means subtraction. Exceeds twice the smaller by 9. If the sum of twice the larger and 5 times the smaller is 74, and a is the smaller. Okay, so I've been using x for the smaller, so I better use a. Which equation determines the correct value of a? Alright, so we have to now get rid of y, and it looks like they're plugging the 2a plus 9. Okay, so swing this over, and this is 2a plus 9, right? So they're plugging this into the other equation for y. So you get 2a plus 9 plus 5a equals 74. 2a plus 9 plus 5a equals 74. Good. When x over y equals 4, x squared minus 12y squared equals question mark. Right? Well, I can factor, let me see. So one way to do it is just to move the y over. You get x equals 4y. Then you could plug this in for x here. So 4y quantity squared minus 12y squared. So then you can square each piece of this. You get 16y squared minus 12y squared. That will give you 4y squared. G. The ratio of the side lengths for a triangle is exactly 15 to 14 to 12. In a second triangle similar to the first, the longest side is 10 inches long. Okay, 15, 14 to 12. The longest side of the other one is 10. To the nearest tenth, what is the shortest side? So this is going to be x. Here's our proportion. So we don't need this number. Okay. So now you can cross multiply. The x comes here. The 10 comes here. Right? And so you have 120 over here. Divide that by 15. And it's actually better to have it separate because the 12 is really 4 times 3. And this is really a 5 times 3. The 3's can cancel. You end up with 4/5 of 10. If you double top and bottom, you get 8/10 of 10. The 10's cancel, you get 8. If a and b are positive integers such that the greatest common factor of a squared, b squared, and ab to the third, so the GCF of these two is 45. Okay, so let's calculate the GCF of these by doing a stack method. Okay, we stack them on top of one another, and then since we're looking for the greatest common factor, we actually take the least of each column. So the least power here is a, and the least power here is b squared. Now we know that that has to equal 45. So let's break 45 down and see what it's made of. It's made of a 9 times 5, right? And then a 3 times 3 times 5. Basically 3 squared times 5. So ab squared equals 5, 3 squared. Then b could equal 3. The costs of carriage rides different lengths are given below. If each, because this is a fixed charge and a charge per half mile, what's the fixed charge? So this is a linear setup. We saw that was 50 cents was the slope, right? Plus 0.5x. So y equals b, right? mx plus b, if you will, right? Now we can actually plug in an x and a y in here, right? So this could be x, this could be y. So 8 equals 0.5x plus b, and x, of course, we'd have to plug in 5, right? So this is 2.5. Subtract the 2.5 to the other side, and that would make 5.5 for b, 550. The hypotenuse of right triangle ABC is shown below is 16. The sine of angle A, angle A, is 3/5. So opposite over hypotenuse. What's BC? Alright, so we can set up that proportion. So 16 is to 5x as something we don't know is to 3x. So now we can move the 3x over to here. Okay. And then the x's will cancel. And then we just have to calculate that. So 3 times 16 divided by 5. 9.6. Alright, circle has a center here, radius here. What is the equation? So we need to take the opposite of this, so negative 12 and positive 5. So positive 5. And then we need r squared on the other side. What is the largest integer value of t that satisfies this? So we can move the 24 over to here. Okay. Let's see. So we have got 24 times 24 over 30. And 30 is 6 times 5, right? And 24, 6 into 24 is 4, right? Okay. So you can just use the calculator if we get a little bit lazy. 4 times 24. Divide that by 5. 19.2. So t, if we pancake this, t has to be less than 19.2. Right? So it could be 19, for example. What is the distance between these? Alright, change in x is 4, change in y is 5. Square them, add them, square root. 16 and 25, that's 35, 45, 41. Alright. What is the measure of angle MON? Alright. So let's see. 30, this would also be 30 because alternate interior. Then 30 and blank and 105 has to be equal to 180. So we do the subtraction, and that will give 45. In triangle ABC, AB is congruent with AC. So AB congruent with AC. If the measure of angle B is 34, what's the measure of angle A? Well, this one would also have to be 34. So then you got 68 away from 180 would give 112. In a certain budget, 30% of the money goes towards housing costs. Okay, so that's basically, if X is the total, that would be 0.3X. Of that portion, 20% goes toward rent. Okay, so what we're doing is we're splitting off, right? Make a little tree here. So this would be 0.7, sorry, this would be 0.2, 20% of 30% of X. That's what's going toward rent. If the amount of money that goes toward rent is 630, so that means this equals 630. And we want to solve for the total, which is X. So 0.2 times 0.3 is 0.06. Divide that onto the other side. So 630 divided by 0.06, you get 10.5. What is the matrix product of this? Okay, well, this is 3 rows by 1 column. This is 1 column by 3 rows, so we expect the answer to be a 3 by 3. So already, if you know that much, we're in this scenario here. Now, we do the first row times the first column, we get 2x. We do the second row times the first column, we get 3x. So it's choice A. What's the perimeter? We can always extend the outermost net here. This vertical is 3 on both sides and 4 on both sides. 4 and 4 is 8. 3 and 3 is 6. Add them together, you get 14. The average of A and B is 6. The average of A, B, and C is 11. What is C? So you can move the 3 and get 33 for these guys added together, and move this 2 to go here diagonally, and that will make 12. Then you can plug in this 12 here for these two. Alright, and then you could subtract 12 from both sides, and that will give you 21. The greatest integer of a set of consecutive even integers, so we have this situation, is 12. If the sum of these integers is 40, how many integers are in the set? Okay. Well, even easier, we can just start at 12. Okay, that's the greatest, so then 10, and then 8, and then 6. So we have to add up to 40. So let's see how many of these we need. Well, 12 and 10 is 22, and 8 is 30, and then those two makes 40. Yeah. So this is the list. How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On the number line shown below, blah, 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 which of the following is closest in value to the distance between W and U? So here's W, and here's U. So what is that length? That length is approximately 1 unit. It's approximately V length from 0, right? The length of arc XY of a circle is equal to 1/6 of the circumference. The length of the arc is 7 pi. What is the radius? So, alright, if we are 1/6 of the circumference, okay, and that's equivalent to 7 pi in arc length, that means that if I multiply that by 6, I would get the total arc length of the circle, also known as the circumference. Now, since circumference is 2 pi times radius, I can set these equal. So 2 pi radius is 42 pi. I can divide that by 2 pi, and I get that the radius would equal 21. Let S be the set of all integers that can be written as this. Okay. Which of the following is in set S? Well, let's see here. Well, I mean, one way to do it is just to see which of these could possibly be an output where n is an integer. But probably an easier way would be to just pick a number for n and see if I can build up some by hand. So I'm considering factoring this. I would get this, right? Factoring out of 2n, left with n minus 3. So now if I start with n equals 1, well, I'd better start with 4, because I don't want a negative answer. So 4 minus 3 is 1, right? 1 times 4 is 4, times 2 is 8. So 8 is my first possible output. No good, because it's not on my list. Try 5 for an input. So 2 times 5 is 10. 5 minus 3 is 2. That makes 20. Still too low. We'll go to 6. 6 minus 3 is 3. 6 times 2 is 12. 12 times 3 is 48. No, 12 times 3 is 36. Sorry. Still not on my list. So we go to 7. 7 minus 3 is 4. 7 times 2 is 14. 14 times 4 is 40. And 16 is 56. No good. Try 8. 8 minus 3 is 5. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 times 5 is 80. So that is on the list. Let the function g be defined by this. When g of x equals 69 was possible. Alright, so I can find x. 3 times x squared minus 2. The output equals 69. I can divide that by 3. That would equal 31. X squared minus 2 equals 31. Is that right? Or is it 33? Yeah, 33. Okay. Am I doing this right? Alright. 23. Wow, I was way off. Okay. A little brain meltdown. Add 2. X squared equals 25. Square root each side. X equals 5. Actually, plus or minus 5, right? Okay, so now that we have x, we can go into here and make it 10 minus 3 is 7, right? A plus b is 25. A is greater than 4, which the line must be true. A plus b is 25, and then a is greater than 4, so b would have to be less than something if their sum is finite. So we plug in 4 to figure out the possible maximum limit. And we find 21 to be that limit. Okay? If m, n, and p are positive integers such that m plus n is even, and this whole thing is odd, which the line must be true. Well, let's come up with a way to do it. So why not use 1 and 1 for these guys? Okay? That makes things even. Alright? And then if we have 1 and 1, that would be 2 squared is 4, plus 1, plus p has to be odd. So let's make p equal to 0. M, n, and p. Alright? Now, which line must be true? Is m odd? Yes. Is n even? No, it's not. Is p odd? No, it's not. If n is even, which it's not, so I move on. If p is odd, which it's not, so I move on. M is odd. Well, let's see if I can make it be even. Let's start with a 0 and a 0. That adds up to even. And the value of this, okay. So here, 0 plus 0 squared is still 0. Plus 0 plus p is odd. So this time p would have to equal 1. Right? So now, let's see what I have to check now. M is odd. No, not in this case, right? If n is even, which it is, p is odd, which it is, yes. If p is odd, which it is, n is odd, which it's not. Okay, so J is the only one that survives both tests. A bag contains only quarters, dimes, and nickels. The probability of randomly selecting a quarter is 1/6. So probability quarter is 1/6. The probability of randomly selecting a nickel is 1/4, which is fine. Could be the total number of coins. Okay. My answer would be 24 right away, because that's a common multiple of these. So if I multiply by 4 over 4, I would get 4 24ths, and here's 6 24ths. So then I could have, 4 of those coins, 6 of those coins, and then that makes 10, so then I would have 14 dimes. In the XY coordinate system, R and S, okay. And what is T? Alright, so 2 points on the line. Okay, oh, I see what they're doing. Alright, so it's kind of like X and Y here, right? And the slope here is 4. So you go up 4 over 1. That's the rule. Okay? Now if you notice, they're going from R to R plus 2. So they're actually going over 2, which means that they would have to go up 8. So the Y value should then be S plus 8. The figure shown below, S is perpendicular to R, and X is greater than 90, which is line must be true. So let's say this is 100. Then this would have to be 80, right? So you see this is going to be smaller as a result. So Y is going to be less than 90. Alright, let X equal this. What happens when, alright, so X equals 2. So Y decreases by 1. So Y becomes Y minus 1, Z becomes Z plus 2. So instead of Y, I'm going to put Y minus 1. Instead of Z, I'm going to put Z plus 2. Alright, distribute 2Y minus 2. So this minus 2 has just appeared. That's a new piece. And then distribute the 3. You get plus 3Z plus 6. That's a new piece as well. So you see the parts that I haven't circled are the old stuff. The parts that I have circled are the new stuff. So the new stuff is just adding 4 to the original. On the cube in the figure shown below, each of the following points is the same distance from R as it is from S, except. So we'll check M first. M is 1 edge away. Good. What about O? O is sort of a diagonal away from each. Right. T is 1 side away from R and S. And Q is a diagonal away from R, and it's also a diagonal away from S. What about N? Well, N is a side length away from S, but it's actually a long diagonal away from R. In the figure shown below, YZ and MB intersect at O. XO is perpendicular to YZ. What is the value of 3P plus, okay, whatever that whole thing means. So let's see here. Well, the first thing that I would think to do is to add everything up. P plus S plus T plus 35 plus 90, and set that equal to a 360 degrees. Right? So that's one equation. My next intuition tells me that 35 and S are equal. Right? So S equals 35. Right, so I can say that these make 180. P plus 90 plus 35 is 180. And similarly, S and T by themselves is 180. And there will be some redundancy here. So I'm going to get rid of this first equation then. Okay. Right, so let's see here. Do I have enough information to solve for all the variables? Maybe not, but maybe I can come up with a way to find this sort of situation. But I'm not too sure, so let's take a look. Well, I have got 3 equations, but I don't think it's enough to eliminate all the variables. There's 3 variables. Well, really it's just P and T, right? So actually, I can solve it. So I plug 35 in for S. So that would go in the bottom equation. 35 plus t is 180. Subtract 35, and I can find t. So t is 145. All right. So now I've got s and I have t. And I could also find p. So subtract 90, and that makes this 90. And subtract 35, and that makes it 55. So p is 55. So now that I have all of them, I can find out whatever weird combination they wanted. So 3 times p, right, plus 4 times s, minus 2 times t. So we'll calculate it. 3 times 55 plus 4 times 35 minus 2 times 145. 15.